Hi, welcome to the channel, and welcome to another instalment of our Masterclass series. This is a series of videos where I am joined by a high level Pokemon player or players to discuss a Pokemon archetype or element of gameplay they're particularly proficient at or with. These videos should hopefully serve as an educational resource for the VGC community as a whole for older and newer players alike. This week I'm joined by Oliver Gausden and Jack Clarke. We will be talking about off meta Pokemon. Now, I'm sure this is an interesting topic for a lot of people because who doesn't want to win with something interesting? And why not get two of the best builders in Europe involved in this conversation? Now, we will talk about all sorts of things, including how to identify off meta picks, what even makes an off meta pick, and also when to rein it in when you may be cooking too hard and you don't want to burn down the kitchen. Let's get into the conversation. To help me go through this, we've got two of the great builders in the UK at the moment and arguably in the world. We've got Jack and Oliver. How are we doing, guys?
Hi, thanks for having us.
Hello.
Why don't you guys introduce yourself and why you qualify as off meta builders, and then we will get stuck into it.
You first, Ollie?
Yeah, I'm Oliver Gausden. I occasionally run off-meta teams, although I've been a bit more boring recently. I'm quite well known for using Okidogi and Iron Boulder team, the Eternatus team that got featured on streams, as well as a few more just minor adaptations.
Yeah, and I'm Jack. I've been enjoying off-meta stuff for pretty much ever since I started playing VGC for sure. I think my very first team was Bolton, which is more unknown to most, given that was not much in terms of results. But I've recently hopped off in Gen 9 with the Espathra Quacklevel team. Okidogi is basically my brand in the past year. With the Grim Okidogi Regef stuff, that was really kind of me that pioneered that stuff. And Drifbloom Toxtricity was the more recent crazy stuff back in Reg H, my beloved, when I got top 8 at Dortmund. So.
Absolutely. So, guys, why don't we get into what really is an off meta pick? How do we identify? Yeah. So, what is this for? Like, someone that's like, what do they mean by off meta? What we saying?
So something that's generally not used often. It's not really something you just see slapped on a team. It often fills a specific role and can be fit on a specific archetype, perhaps. You're trying to maybe patch certain matchups that are a little difficult, and you kind of have to think a bit more outside the box to figure out how to maybe break open the meta a bit.
Yeah. Have you got anything you
Yeah,
need to add to that, Oliver?
yeah, I think it's pretty much like you said. It's mons with maybe like under 1% usage. You just never see them normally, but they fill very specific niches on a team. Like there's one matchup that you really need to patch. Like I mean, the Iron Boulder on the screen. It's like I had really big issues with Landorus and Gouging Fire, and Iron Boulder was the perfect fix for that. And there were no other mons that could really fill that role.
Absolutely. So, yeah, a really important thing is sort of identifying these picks. Like, what how do you actually come to your conclusions? Like, I think there's various ways you do it. Like, I think I talked to Jack before. Like Jack says, like sometimes you just like them on, and like you try and find a way to make it work. But sometimes like you have a hole in your team, and you really need to find something. So what sort of is your guys' process?
So, interestingly, I feel like a lot of the time you find an off-meta pick, it's like you have a really nice core 4 or 5 mons. You can't figure out something in the 6th slot. You need to figure out something where the other's not filling its weight that can help the matchups that you're struggling with, perhaps. But often for me, just because of how I like to build and play this game, is actually often where I start. I'll find a mon that I really think is interesting and has a niche, and then I'll figure out the best archetype it can fit onto. Okidogi is the best example, right? So I saw the potential this mon had, but way back in Reg F, because of it's just I mean, I'm kind of known as a fellow instant hater in general, so anything that's anti-intimidate is often up my alley. I thought the God Dog is very interesting. I've got to explore around with that, and I've also been playing Grimstar for the longest time, and I was looking at upper hand users one day and just noticed that the combination of the God Dog and upper hand was just a very nice combination with the screens, because I feel like a way that people often try and deal with a screens team is to stop the screens going up. So pressure with fake out, blow out with a big Moonblast, and the Flutter main meta we live in, that's often where people go. And I just felt Dogi could offer some really good counterplay to that. And with the assault vest as well, it works perfectly with the kind of moves it wants to run, because it's got like your coverage, and then also maybe knock off, high horsepower, ice punch have even run occasionally. Like it's a very interesting moveset overall, and it has a great toolkit and into a lot of the balance cores, which is what I often try and break. So
Yeah, and I think that is a big part of just kind of picking these off meta picks. It's like you want to be able to break up what's standard, and I think Eternus is kind of the prime example of that. It's something that with us and our poison types is they just completely obliterate these firewater grass cores, and it's just kind of it's just finding the best way to rip the standard meta apart, and just kind of you're kind of abusing what you know is going to be common by using something uncommon to beat that.
yeah, poison's definitely something we often find is going to be our next call. If you think I'm like, if you ever see me cooking and I'm being like secretive about it, just look at a list of poison types. Like, what's he on now? You know, that's often how it goes for
Got the
me.
highest
So.
base stat total.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got the Dogi. I was using Gamora, but even though it wasn't particularly off meta, I did that in Regi with a successful Dondoza team. Again, that's not particularly groundbreaking, but it's a poison type. There was Toxtricity, of course, and then even though I haven't really cracked the code for my own playstyle, I've been trying to turn to so much this format. So like, there's always poison in my veins, ready to be released into the wild.
But there's quite a few other examples of poison types in the meta as well. Like there was the Overquill that got top 8 at NAIC. There's
Love that.
Iron Moth is always popping up from every now and then. There's
I'm off. That was back in Reg C for me. Again with Screen's team, and Corviknight with Sludge Wave. Sludge Wave is like also running into my veins, I swear.
Favorite move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, Justin Knox's Koraidon team with the Venusaur recently as well.
Absolutely, yeah. I do think, yeah, like lots of interesting poison types out there, and it's just like really sort of exploring the builder and just like don't rule anything out just because it's not used. Like it could be good, it could be bad. Like I do think like you can't just go, oh, I like this, it's different. Just turn up with it and like it's going to be good. Like it might not be good, but
yeah, you've always got to make sure with any Pokemon that you may be interested in, whether it just be because you think it fills a particular hole because you want to use it, like you've got to find its niche. You can't be using, I don't know, let's take your example, Matt. I know it's plays very differently, but like I feel like in general Lucario as a fighting steel type just is not worth it in a meta when why aren't you using Cobalion or Zamazenta if that's your restricted choice, you know? Like you've got to make sure there's not just a better mon for the roles.
Absolutely, yeah. I think I think it feeds nicely into the sort of when should you just use a better mon. I think the example that I put in this one was just why would you ever use Mewtwo over Shadow Rider? Like,
because you're trying to use Hurricane Spam with Pelipper.
Hey, the Stellar Weather Balls get all the time.
Oh yeah, there we go.
You're not 4 times weak to Dark, only 2 times weak to Dark.
There you go, slap an Assault Vest. I bet he eats an Astral Bro. Shredder it back. Easy.
Yeah.
The horse meta, they're ready for the downfall. Off the horse. Come on now.
Yeah, there we are. We've just built Mewtwo for everyone, so there you go. But I think there's an element of fun versus results. Like you could definitely get away with if you're only really trying to go and have a laugh, you can run whatever you want really, and you can just justify stuff a bit more if you're not really pushing for a serious result. But I think the top 2 points, sort of what you guys can sort of discuss, is sort of is there a better mon for that role, and if not, why? If there is, why you're not just using it?
I think this is a conversation I have with Jack quite a lot, trying to convince him, please just run Urshifu. I swear to God, please just run Urshifu. It's so much better.
Fun fact: I've recently realised that I've never used Urshifu in a major yet. That is for entire VGC, which is kind of wild to me, and it's overdue. I feel like it's gonna happen, but knowing me, it'll probably be Dark Food before Water Food, because you can't just do the S tier objective one, can we? So.
Yeah, I think Dark's on the rise at the moment. Obviously, Dill just got second place at UIC.
Oh yeah, Dark's great. I have used it on a couple teams that are still in the works, and there's potential there for sure.
Yeah, never used Water Urshifu. I've never taken Water Urshifu to a major either. I've taken Dark, but
it doesn't mean I haven't for less smaller locals or maybe even online tours and such. I had a team back in Gen 8 actually. I really enjoyed a lot. That had it. This was in the Isle of Armor, so pretty much its debut before when everything went to hell with this stupid bear. But the team, it was actually, I was trying some drifting team back then, funnily enough, and I had a lot of fun with strength sapping my own Urshifu to get like basically infinite HP back while I'm just surging strikesing everything. It was quite strong actually. So.
Absolutely. I think we can start looking at some really notable runs, notable mons by these off meta picks. Obviously, the one that everyone knows, and it'd be bad of us to skip over it because it is probably the most famous Pokemon of all time, is Pachirisu winning Worlds. Obviously, Seijun, identified an issue with electric type attacks and needed a redirector, and sort of it filled the role that was needed for Seijun's team. Like, I think like the common misconception is like it was already his favourite Pokemon. I think he just genuinely just identified it as a patch, and like, yeah, there's a lot of these.
Hey. See, you did there.
So yeah, so I think there's some really cool teams for us to look at. You will obviously highlight Jamie Boyd's Courtney regional winning team. There's a YouTube link for that. I will put these slides in the link below so you can go and watch Jamie's team report. But that's really cool because he identified that he needed his focus dash elsewhere, so he couldn't have a Whimsicott. So if you can't have a Whimsicott, why not have a Courtney with an Eviolite, which can at least take the hits? Yeah, it's
Couldn't do it in the Cloak meta. That's all I'm saying.
I know. Imagine having Cloak back then. But yeah, obviously we'll actually look at a couple of your guys' teams. So why don't we start with your team, Jack? Your Drifblim and Indeedee team, which you just said.
My beloved. Yeah, so I mean, the crazy thing about that team really is we've spoken about, when do you want to just get a good result with a niche pick that you found or just have fun. That team was pure fun. I did not go up to that tournament thinking, yeah, let's top 8. Like, that was a very surprising breakout performance for me. I tested Drifblim a bit at the start of the format. I tried a different team initially. It had a Hisuian Arcanine and a Garchomp and things on it. I didn't really like how it flowed, but I thought, let me try Toxtricity on this team because it has synergy with the Boom Burst next to Drifblim and all that. I'd already been trying Indeedee Male. I also figured that if Indeedee Male was going to ever work in Gen 9, Reg H was the time to do it, given it didn't get Expanding Force pre-Reg F, and then just the power creep was making it kind of hard to justify before then. So it was a perfect time to give one of my favourite duos a good shots, and just figure out the best pieces that will work with the team. I'm always really kind of get obsessed on like really figuring out good synergies here and there as well, especially when you got like spread moves going. So like I didn't want just the Drifblim Ghost type being the only thing that was allowing me to click Boom Burst as well. I found King Ambit with the double Dark Week of Indeedee Male and Drifblim is very scary for my team. So Kamo just seemed like a very fun, natural way to fix that with the soundproof as well. So you could immune to your Boom Burst and also just being able to. It's not just like a fighting type that can get Sucker Punch for over half your HP. You're good at Iron Defense and you're good at win. Like there's no really breaking that if you position that well. So that was kind of where that came in. I feel that that team. I feel like a lot of people always question the Volcarona because people usually see a Quiver Dance set, but the main feature from that was really just wanting a good fire type that's speedy and has good offense. Hence the Lifeall 3 attacks I went for. So, and then Hydreigon, I can't remember exactly why I chose that. I think Golden Go was a bit of an issue, so I wanted something that patched that a bit. The Assault Vest helped with Snarl as well. It was just kind of in a decent speed tier and had a really nice defensive typing that allowed me to just, again, kind of just like the 6th slot, what do you need to patch, and that kind of worked effectively. And then also, it was great into the Saluna meta as well. Both of them really, because AV was quite nice with Snarl, but the fact you can Terra Ghost and just be completely immune to its the Gut Swan stabs was just chef's kiss. With Drifblim as well, you could just stare at it like, what are you gonna do? Have fun with, it's not its ideal place to be. So
absolutely, that's a really cool team, and like this is a good example of like you identified a duo you want to use first, and then Toxtricity came in, which I love. Like the fact that we talk about the team as a Drifblim and Indeedee team, and then there's a Toxtricity there as well. Like,
yeah, I think another thing as well is because obviously Raging Bolt, Iron Hands, they're kind of our premier electric types, I'd say, at the moment outside the restricteds, and there wasn't really many about in Reg F. It's like looking down the list, it's like what could work here? And yeah, I figured Tox was worth a shot with the other synergies that already appeared on the team and such. I did go to a couple locals before going to Dortmund as well, and very much was like a let's see what happens, and got second at a cup, won the challenge. That's what they call it now. Yeah, still goes on ahead sometimes. And yeah, I very much expected a fluke when it comes to the regional levels. So yeah, it was just beyond my expectations.
Absolutely. And then if we go on to your team, Oliver, this I think you said more the boulder was a patch. So it's sort of it's the other end of it where you had a team and you had some bad matchups, and then Iron Boulder was the perfect choice. So why don't you talk to us about this team?
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, this team is originally Jack's. He did mention it earlier. The screen Doki Dogi was his idea, and it's kind of. I remember seeing like after Liverpool and after I think it was Dortmund or whichever tournament was just after. It's kind of you'd made day 2 both times and said like, this team's really fun. I enjoyed it a lot. If I had more practice, I think I could do really well with it. And then I kind of saw it, picked it up, and think this is incredibly meta relevant right now. This is because balance was just going up and up and up, and well, Utrecht as a tournament was kind of proof that balance was not the team, or was the team to beat, and it was beaten because it was eventually, of course, won by the Articuno team, being run by Tio.
Yeah, it was purest form. I love that team.
It was the Off Meta tournament. It was incredible. Yeah, so I kind of went into that tournament thinking, right, screens is the call. Like Jack went into his regionals thinking, I'll just play this for fun. But when I picked up this team, I thought I could win this regional with this team. I thought it was the perfect call, and I was right until I bubbled on opponent's resistance.
Oh, it's like, hey, if you're gonna use my team, you also got to take my bubble energy as well, you know, to bring it into your turn.
I'm so glad bubbles don't exist anymore.
I'm doing my ace, but yeah, it's bad.
Yeah, as for the
team as well, it's you say that like I brought purely for fun. To be fair, I was a bit more convinced of that team. I'd done a couple of locals and such, and that was very much a combination of like I'm having fun, but I can tell this is a good team as well. So
yeah,
sometimes I'm more balls to the ball. That was a bit more calculated, that team for sure.
Because I think that's kind of. It's kind of where we differ in how we build our teams, because I think you focus a lot more on synergies and getting like the strongest cores you possibly can first, and then focusing on how you adapt to the meta. Well, I'm kind of the other way around. I consider metas first, but with this team, it's kind of I saw your core of the 5 of Grimstar, Lokapon, Dogi, Moon, and Dengo. I just thought that's so strong, but I wasn't convinced about the Entei because like we hadn't actually worked together on this team. I just kind of stole it without your knowledge.
I feel like ever since you used the Doga, it's kind of what like kind of merged us together, you know, and really we started building and taking interest in each other's teams and all that, because before then, you know, you saw the team and obviously we knew each other, but like we didn't really work that closely on teams, so it's
just kind of it was going into Utrecht. It's kind of we came to the same conclusions about the team, because I remember we had quite a long conversation about it. It was kind of on your version of the team, you really struggled with the Landorus, which I knew was like going to be a bigger thing at Utrecht. Landorus I was becoming a big deal at that time, and I thought I can't deal with that with Entei. I can't deal enough damage to it. And also the gouging fire teams, which was beginning to fall off, but it was still something I needed to consider, because like this team had no way to hit the strong fire types. So it's kind of, there were a few things I tested. I think it was, I mean, obviously the original Entei and Hisui and Arcanine I tried as well, but I wasn't a huge fan of how little damage Arcanine did. So when I came round to it, I think I was chatting with Puente about it, and I said, I think the answer is Iron Boulder, and he told me to go to bed. But then it's kind of, I tested it more and more on ladder, because I was convinced this was the right call, and I just like kept climbing and just thought, is Iron Boulder actually the call? Because it was only a week before when I'd actually settled on it. But then, it worked in testing, it worked in practice. I go into the regional, and it's a wipe. It's a complete slaughter. It works perfectly. There were so many times where I just kind of clicked Terra Rock Mighty Cleaves in the end games, and just nothing could deal with it because it was faster than half the meta. It was doing its job perfectly. It was surviving Earth Powers, returning one shots onto Landorus. It was dealing with the gouging fires. It was exactly what I needed.
I think I respect the hell out of it. I found, because I tried a version after the Boulder success as well, I didn't like it as much. The main reason why I like the Entei so much is I wanted as much kind of just really deterring Rillaboom, mainly, because even though you have the upper hand, sometimes the speed tier is a bit wonky, and I just want as many things kind of deterring as possible on the screens team, because them bringing a fake out is often just a way to kind of also slow the game down in ways I don't want. So just having Entei was often meant Rilla stayed on the bench. But as soon as I tried Boulder, oh my god, Rilla! Every time they bring it, it was just deceptively kind of good into me, I found. But yeah, you found a way to make it work. And also that speed tier, and like you said, the gouging fire, that was definitely a tough matchup for my team. I'd say the thing that changed the most over the couple months I was using that was the Entei. I think the Terra changed and the moveset here and there, and it eventually settled in Terra Fairy because the ability to just not get breaking swipe was very important.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I went with that mon. But yeah, the speed on Boulder and way to just blow things up was very destructive.
Yeah, it's interesting sort of like, it's just you both ran the same team for a significant period of time, but with like, minor differences. Is that, it's always interesting to see how different builders will adapt a team in a different way. Which actually brings us on to a team that I can talk a little bit about, which is the Cobalion team, which we took to Birmingham. There's a group of 6 of us took it. Only Seb had a significant run. He actually went 8-3, just missed out on cut. And
incredible run.
It was a great run, and we thought, it was interesting because we thought the meta was fairly weak to Zama, and Zama was starting to pick up before Birmingham, but we were all pretty set on Miraidon, as we're like, how do we, what is the way of having a Zamazenta? And I saw this Cobalion on, I think it was in a James Beck video back in the original Reg G, and like he got, like, it got set up against him, and I think he still won, but he burnt it. But I was like, that's really cool. Like, why don't I just play with it? And then I think I sort of built a really early version of the team. I had an Entei, not an Ensign. I had, the team looked quite different. I didn't have a bundle. I had, good question. I had something, but I ran the team for like most of the original Reg G, but I didn't have any majors. So I was like, okay, like maybe I'll try and revive it. And I brought some guys on board. I brought on Amrit, who is one of the best EVers I've ever met. I cannot EV for anything, and he really can. So he helped, thrash it out and like EV this team. We had a Scream Tail for a little bit before the bundle. It's just fast encores, really fun. But in the end, we decided the extra speed control would be really nice. Plus, we had a glaring Landorus issue with 3 ground weeks. So this team came together really well, and I think Sam had a really good run with it. I think it was really good into a lot of the meta. A few of us got matchup checked. We didn't really have much of a hard Trick Room matchup at all, and I faced a bit of it, and it was a bit of a nightmare. But I think this was a cool way of seeing something that Japan did, and just go, actually, this could be really good, and like adapted into best of 3. And like all of us that use the team got points of it. And Seb had the regional run. But speaking of Japan, that brings us on to, we can have a look at Liberty Note quickly, because I think that sort of just feeds in nicely. It's like, if anyone's looking to build off meta, I think Liberty Note is like a really cool place to start looking. It will translate into English eventually, and then you can basically, they publish all of the season results for ranked battles, and they also post all the GC results. We can look at, on Liberty Note, we can look at stuff like the GC standings, and like you can see some really cool best of 1 teams, which I think Japan can always bring out some of the best of 1 teams, and like they pick out some really interesting choices that can definitely be adapted for best of 3. So you can look through all the teams. The GC is interesting. They also publish all the ranked battles top 30 as well at the end of each month, which is really good to see stuff. But like keep an eye on what Japan's doing, because it's always fun.
Some of the finest team builders we have in the community.
There's a crest on Miraidon here with a Sableye. I don't know what that's doing. That's like insane.
I'll say bye. It's like a big wild card, that mon. Mons like that, it's like, I'm so glad we have OTS, for the actual IRL tournaments.
Absolutely. Like, I think it's on this team that we're going to have a quick look at as well, which is like one of the most insane teams from Worlds last year, which is, it's a Groudon team, but it has an Altaria, it has a Sableye.
That team is wild to me. Like, for a team that naturally has a Kali Ice weakness, I find it absolutely wild to me that they just said, Altaria, that's what I need. Like, what? Like, oh my god. And the fact he got such an incredible result, like, is everything I'm saying is like mind-boggling, but nothing but praise, like props. Like, I can't believe they got the run they did. Incredible.
Truly insane, and like proves that Japan can bring it. Like no other country.
Gravity Sing, right? So,
Yeah, I mean Gravity Sing, Gravity Precipice Blade, your Chi-Yu doesn't miss, which is, I mean, it's even Fire Blast Chi-Yu. It's just,
God's sake.
I feel like you never see Fire Blast in Gen 9. It's like you see Flamethrower, Heat Wave, Overheat, Fire Blast. I don't even know what the Gen 9 animation for Fire Blast looks like.
I have no idea. So, I know.
Next objective, get them on with Fire Blast for then. Yeah, sure.
Hey, Eternatus, guarantee that.
I know, because like sometimes if the Flamethrower count doesn't look good, maybe Fire Blast is to play. Doesn't get overheats, it's justifiable.
Absolutely, it's just like, it's really, like, obviously it's something what all three of us I think are really passionate about, is like using really cool mons in different ways. Like, I think another example I wanted to highlight was Emilio's Worlds run, which ended unfortunately with I had to play sudden death, but like Emilio just came in and said Brambleghast is good, and everyone was like probably not, and Emilio just said no, it is, and he was on an absolute tear up that Worlds run. And
yeah, I was a believer in Brambleghast for sure. Again, anyone that seems like it has a way to just kind of deal with the meta at the moment is always gonna jump out at me and, oh, what's that? Tornadoes can't touch you? Like, that's not bad in a meta that's ruled by Tornurshifu, you know, before our Bolt days, and obviously they're still quite oppressive in some of the formats we've had. So yeah, love it. Really good stuff. Sure, you're probably still getting one shot by Surge's Strikes, but enough exponential calcs in that. But hey, you can power it back, right? So,
yeah, absolutely.
shame it didn't get Poltergeist until the DLC. If it had that for Worlds in Reg D, that would have been amazing.
Absolutely. And then the last one we'll have a quick look at is this from EUIC just on, which is, I mean, you guys are both Tink fans, so this is cool. Like, but like, it's just, this team is again bonkers, and the proof that, like, if you believe in it and you practice enough and you know the concept works for you, like, you can bring it, you can have a result. And like, this is setup Miraidon, which you don't see, Thundy, which you don't really see, Tinkerton.
Oh, that's the Oranguru one, isn't it?
Yeah.
This team, the whole team's display. The Oranguru, it's not even just an Oranguru, it's also the moveset on the Oranguru, because it has, like, isn't it Bulldoze as its own attack?
Yeah.
Like,
Bulldoze, Scary Face, Taunt, Instruct,
like, huh? I mean, Instruct, sure, of course, it's going to be there, but yeah, absolutely wild. You expect a Trick Room or maybe like a Foul Play or something like that. Nah.
Yeah, it's insane, and like, it's just a testament to them as a builder. They are really creative builders, Soggy. So we'll now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing about the Oranguru, of course. I mean, I have not really looked too much into that team, so I'm definitely not the one to talk on it. But like, I'm talking about Oranguru, like what you'd expect to see on the Oranguru, but like perhaps the expected moveset, it's more what you'd expect on hard TR. And for that particular team, you want to think outside the box and think about other options it has, and that's clearly where the decision making came to the conclusions of what to run on that particular team. So.
Absolutely, and you talk, like, obviously you're a big fan of synergies, and it's great that, like, this isn't an inner focus on Guru, it's symbiosis with Cloak. So turn one, you can't be faked out, but then once you bring your Miraidon in and you give it your Cloak, then the Miraidon can't be faked out. It's just incredibly cool.
Symbiosis is a very interesting ability. I feel like you can get really wild with what you're doing with that one. From when I've tried Oranguru, I'll be honest, I like the other abilities too much. Symbiosis is never the one that jumps out to be the most. I like not being flinched, and my spread moves with Boom Burst, Sludge Wave, all that. It's like, what can we make telepathy Oranguru work on this team? So never the one that jumps out. But yeah, honestly, I feel like Oranguru deserves all three. Give it like the As one treatment. I'm sure it's intelligent enough.
Yeah, it's a really cool one, and there's a variety of mons. Like, there's some, like, it could be used in really variety of ways, and like really cool ones. And I think Oranguru is a good example of a really flexible one. So now we're just going to have a look at some other builders outside of, obviously, you guys, who always look what these two are up to, because it's always interesting. But like some of the other notable sort of off-meta, so to speak, builders. I mean, so we've got a list here of what I collated, which is Michael Zhang, Eternal Snowman. He's always cooking, like, really strong player as well. Really good runs in pretty much every tournament he attends these days. It's not like... his seems very much like, I think it's very purposeful. I think, like, so you had Koraidon with like banded Gouging Fire recently. It's just like, yeah, like, okay, that's like, you think, look at it, it goes, oh, that makes a lot of sense, but like, it's not something that other people do. Like, yeah, but it's not like too particularly like, I mean, Gouging Fire's a little bit rarer in Reg G, but it's like, they're not like too like super weird mons. He's not running like something completely bizarre, but like, he's using them in interesting ways.
Yeah, I mean that's a good example of like how certain mons that maybe meta in one format and you develop into others. You know, it went from being kind of what became very meta in general to absolutely having its niche, because you're very unlikely to see Gouging Fire outside of Sun teams nowadays. And if anything, I'd argue Groudon more than Koraidon because of the type, not overlapping too much. But of course, Groudon's a Terra hog anyway, so maybe it doesn't matter so much.
Absolutely. And then we've got David Kutash, Hamstermania. He's not as active at the moment, but one of possibly the greatest builder in terms of like mad stuff.
The Orthworm team, that's still just free, just absolute class. Love that team. I've wondered if you can make Orphan work in Reg G with like Lunala with a similar idea with like Shadow Shield instead of the multi-scale that the Dragonite was doing, but I don't know, it seems tough. So
he did release his Eternatus team recently as well.
Yeah,
I saw it. Yes,
I will be stealing a few ideas from that.
Oh no, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
Eternatus Dozo, wasn't
I'm
it?
very happy, of course, but there's also part of me is like, man, someone's cracked it before I have. Like we're always, we're our community here. I'm happy to see it, but yeah, I might have to
we
take
still have hope. We can still make it work.
There you go.
Yeah.
I do like the Dozo mode though. It's just a way to shut down any setup nonsense the horses are trying to do, which is probably Tennis's biggest problem. So yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, it's a really cool team. Of course, shout out Jamie Boy, another British player who's historically been a very, very good builder, and still doing it. Toronto top 4 last year with a pretty wild team. Like, yeah, you're never going to see him running in Sin. Like, he's always doing interesting stuff. So, and then we go on to Wolf. Like, yeah, obviously everyone who's watching a VGC video probably knows who Wolf is. Like, he does. Who? He does run standard stuff sometimes, but like you do see him get outside the box a bit, especially like usually once he's secured his invite. I mean, the Toadskrull Wheezing stuff in Reg H. Pretty much every Parish team that's ever been successful, because he seems to be the only one that can play it consistently.
It's insane, isn't it? Yeah.
So like,
I feel like it's easy to forget that Wolfie is actually a very creative team builder as well, because it's like with his insane successes and how often you see his name in teams and such. But yeah, like he's often cooking and doing something interesting, and often I feel like a lot of the time player differing a lot with those teams. So.
But I think he's also kind of the perfect example of when to use meta and off meta, because he is using a good blend of very standard teams. Because I mean, if you look at his Worlds team, it was possibly the most boring team I've ever seen. But then he recently wins the UIC with a Perish Koraidon team, which no one saw coming. So it's like, I think he knows when to adapt to the meta and when to just join it. Absolutely,
yeah. I think there's definitely a nuance to it, and I think that's why it's worth highlighting Wolf. Is like he does seem to know when's the right time, and yeah, when to let go of something a bit silly. He does love Farigiraf though. He does love Farigiraf. And then I want to highlight Paul Ruiz as well. I think Moltres' only ever cut, and it was top 4 at Worlds. It's just like standard Moltres. Paul Ruiz is a great builder. He's recently cut a regional with Chestnut, which is really cool. World champion as well. So like, I think there's a thing with like world champions, like they all use like the standard teams, and the standard teams win in the end. But like, so even look at Wolf's World's winning team, that was not standard. Like, from my understanding, I wasn't.
Oh yeah, no. In 2016, it was unheard of to think that World Finals would not feature Xerneas. That team, like that Mon was supposed to win Worlds. It was supposed to win every regional, and the finals just wasn't seen. It was nuts.
It's really cool. And then we've already had a quick look at Liberty Note. Then the final one to highlight is Justin Knox, who he unfortunately unleashed the Calyrex Wheezing stuff into the world. Which is a shame for
worst. Yes.
Shame for everyone not called Sam Tabner, but
yes.
but he's a really cool builder. Like, He's a Dogi fan as well from his Peoria team. We got fifth. He was an Iron Moth user, I think. Yeah, like in like terms of like US builders, he's quite similar to you guys, I suppose. In his
Huge respect for that guy. He definitely cooks when the time is right, and really cool team builder for sure.
Yeah, so that's some more people you can go and explore. Always look out at Jack Oliver's teams. They are always really interesting as well. And that will bring us to the end of our Off Meta Team Building Masterclass. So we will just do our shout outs and socials and stuff, and then we will get out of here. So why don't you guys, any socials to plug or any shout outs, and then we will call it there.
Yeah, just I'm not really active on anything except for Twitter, so just follow me at Dynamite VGC.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter and Blue Sky, so as the Golden Cosmos.
Cool. And you can find me on Twitter and Twitch at the Postman P. And we will see you next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.